So welcome, CFT delegates. This is the State of the Union address that I'd like to give to you. Being here at this moment gives me strength. Because I see the power of our union and the labor movement right in this room. You are here. After yesterday's rally, I know we all carry the same vision, that building union power for all, and that is our convention theme. Yesterday was just a taste of the movement we need to grow. For when we leave this convention, we need to return to our home locals. We must take up that charge that we are all tasked with, and we must be fighting back and fighting forward. That's why it is so great for us to come together in person to convene, to break the isolation of us being physically dispersed throughout the state. To come together to rejoice in what we have done, to reflect on what we are doing, and to recharge so we can go forward joyfully and with purpose, and to prepare for the work that is ahead for us. I would be remiss if I were not to mention the incredible show of unity of members of the state and national union have already demonstrated this year. As Lacey shared with you today, when Southern California faced the deadly wildfires in January, we put out a call to our membership. And they came out and they helped us. They affected the lives of locals and union members, and you all answered the call with over $67,000 raised by you all, by members throughout this state, throughout this country. I'm so proud of the way the AFT family pulls together, and it's the solidarity like this that will get us through the months and years ahead. The work of solidarity, of union power, of looking out for one another is all happening throughout the state. It's happening at the bargaining table, in fact. Over the past few years, through member mobilization, we talked about the organizing work, locals have won contract victories that have begun to shape the kind of salary and benefits that our members deserve, like the 21% at UTLA that they had in one contract campaign. The substitute increases in UESF, and I could go on and on about all of the raises that we had the past couple of years, and that's when we were fighting forward in our contract wins. But now we have to fight back as we face new challenges of cuts and layoffs. Our state is looking at austerity, and we're going to fight back against that. But for example, the Pajaro Valley Federation of Teachers, where are you? I know you're here in the house. You turned out. You forced the first vote at the school board meeting. The board was going to vote to lay off over 100 teachers, educators, and classified staff, despite keeping massive reserves. You were boisterous at that rally. You were passionate in your testimony. The community was there to support you, and you convinced the board that night to vote no on the original layoffs. And PFT was able to beat back half the layoff notifications. And I know we're going to continue to fight. They are notifications. The layoffs are not solid, and we will fight back. The same thing happened at the Oxnard Federation of Teachers and School Employees. Where are you all? Right here, thank you. They were successfully convinced their school board to pause a layoff proposal. Unfortunately, there were some that continued, but they reduced those numbers through mobilization and efforts. And I know the same is happening in a couple other locals. I know UESF is also fighting back and making sure that they are keeping the educators they need to keep. These are some early success stories of fighting back and fighting forward. And they show an incredible effort to protect educators' jobs in these troubling times. Because we know that the federal government is going to try to cut more. But we are growing that community strength as well. In the higher education space, you may remember that our union led the way to secure a massive victory of state securing over $200 million, and you just saw a video. Collectively, we have successfully bargained those new, and I want to point out, collectively, we joined forces. It wasn't individual locals. We brought people together to talk about how to negotiate this, how to take that state win into local wins. And we got those dollars from the state for those part-time contracts throughout the state. We now have 18 locals. They get 100% reimbursement from the state. 100% reimbursement from the state. And 7 locals that have the 50% reimbursement. And our hard work, the work that CFT did to organize this, means that 80% of the funds that the state puts out for this reimbursement goes directly to CFT locals, because we are the ones doing the work to secure these funds through collaborative, collective bargaining efforts. And let me not leave the community college space. Linda Sneed and John Goffsky are leading the One Faculty campaign. Where are you? They are leading with urgency and a vision. They and the committee are creating a major paradigm shift in terms of what is possible for a community college structure. This work is an example of a kind of revolutionary thinking that we all need to embrace in the years ahead as we fight forward and repair our country. Higher education continues to be the place of growth for our union. And we have elevated our university's council by organizing and fighting for first contracts at new locals like California College of the Arts. We're going to be winning a first contract there. At Claremont College, we have won a first contract there. At Dominican College, go Duck Feet, you know who you are. And the Pasadena Arts Center, all first contracts in the past couple years. We have achieved these first contract victories by helping locals organize themselves into strong unions, by giving them the support they need to stand up for their rights as workers, by helping them with press strategies that elevate their voices, and by, most importantly, listening and responding to members' needs. I'll try not to move far away from it. I want to share another critical piece of visionary thinking from our higher ed locals. He's not looking up right now. Yeah, you, James McKeever, stand up. And your work to bring back the March in March. Oh, you're wearing the shirt. You didn't even know I was going to talk about you. Which took place this year for the second time on March 4th. The return of the March in March is a fight for students. It is a fight for our faculty and staff, and it is a fight for our high quality and free higher education system in the state of California. These are values of CFT. Thank you for leading that. This year, the March in March coincided with AFT's National Day of Action. National Day of Action. So we were able to share our day of action, our vision of our action with other AFT locals around the state and throughout the country. Dozens of CFT locals participated at this March in March in Sacramento, as well as they participated in this day of action at the local level. Over 2,000 actions occurred that day around the country. That is a beginning of our resistance. And this is some great work that we are continuing. As was talked about earlier, we have CFT locals working with the leadership of Steve McDougall and Carl Williams, who are developing their strategic vision of, again, collective thank you. You can read my sign. Collaborative collective bargaining by creating the Educators for Quality Schools Committee, EQS, because it's equals. I'm a math teacher. They are building a ground campaign to ensure, as you heard, California students have fully staffed schools with highly paid and trained education workers, all workers. They are elevating the pride and understanding of what we do, our profession. that our education workers have high quality, affordable, and accessible health care. And actually, the vision is beyond just education workers. This work that Steve and Carl are leading is connected to another major undertaking that a few K-12 locals are participating in as well, as a movement of students and school staff. UTLA, UESF, and Berkeley Federation of Teachers, along with several CTA locals, are building a campaign called We Can't Wait. We can't wait, goddammit. This is, again, a coordinated collective bargaining campaign that touches all corners of the state, that seeks to fight for better wages, better working conditions, and more just and equitable communities across California. I applaud them for their efforts in this movement, and as we did at the We Can't Wait launch, CFT will continue to support the campaign's efforts. Much of this work crosses division council lines, across the board, engages everyone in our union, in our work, and it involves the electoral space. Many election results in 2024 were obviously not what we wanted. We did have some important wins. For example, there were two bonds here in California. We had a school building bond and a climate bond that we passed. We also passed the right to marry and eliminated the horrific, hateful language out of the Constitution, the California Constitution, and same-sex marriage is now protected from the Supreme Court here in California. Through local member mobilization and hard work, we elected dozens of great school board and board of trustee candidates. And here's a short list of locals who elected at least one, and in some cases, more than one of their endorsed candidate to their boards. You ready? ABCFT, where are you? BFT and BCCE. Culver City, El Rancho, Jefferson Elementary, Lompoc, Morgan Hill, Newport Mesa, Oxnard, Pajaro Valley, Salinas Valley, Sunol, Turlock, UESF, UTLA, AFT Guild in San Diego, ADFAC, AFT 1521 and 21A together, AFT 2121, Cerritos, Citrus, Coast Faculty and Coast Classified, College of the Canyons, Los Rios, Peralta, San Jose Evergreen, West Valley Mission, and Yuba College, and that's what you call really winning. That is the work of all of those locals. That is the work of all of us at CFT, winning at the local level. And in addition to school board candidates, we also had bond measures passed in November by Culver City, Glendale College, Lompoc, and Tamalpais. Let's hear it for them as well. Winning at the ballot box also means that we can win in Sacramento. And we had several victories in the legislative space. For example, AB 2245 by Assemblymember Juan Correa and AB 896 by Assemblymember Kevin McCarty finally brought permanent employment status for adult educators and most CTE instructors. Matthew Kogan, are you in the house? There you are. Led the charge, made sure that happened and pushed that. Thank you for doing that. Before, they were at-will employees and could be laid off every year. We also worked to pass AB 1273 by Assemblymember Mia Bonta, who created the first of its kind, a state work group to define staff ratios for classified employees to address overworked and underpaid classified professionals. This is for the K-12 and community college. This working group is looking at effective classified staffing ratios to respect their time, their humanity, and to ensure the work is done to maximum student success and safety. We can't clean 20 classrooms in one night. We need to have real ratios. We need to make sure that we hire more employees so that we can do the work that is needed. And thank you, Classified, for fighting and making sure that that occurred. Then there is the California Safety Act, or AB 1955, by Assemblymember Ward, signed into law in 2024, which prohibits school districts from requiring staff to out students without their consent, while providing resources for LGBTQ plus students and their families. People wanted to force us to out the students. This law prevents that. It gives you the right to decide what the students need and what their safety is, and it allows the students to maintain their right to be who they are. We will vow to protect the right of privacy and the humanity of our students, protecting staff from being forced to out anyone. And finally, what a collective victory for everyone in CalSTRS, for both of our current and future retirees, eliminating the WEP GPO at the national level. Dennis Cox hounded me. Are you in the room? You hounded me to make sure that we did this, and you know what? I never thought it would happen, but it did. Thank you for believing. Our work in the organizing, political, and legislative space over the last 2 years is a testament to all of your ability to put our values into action and create real gains for our locals, our members, our students, and our communities. The work we do always harkens back to the 4 pillars that are the foundation of our efforts: education justice, worker justice, community justice, and labor justice. By letting these pillars be our North Star, and by standing together as a union, we have created change. We are fighting forward, but there's more work to do. Since November 7th, the landscape has changed. And I know we worked so hard to get Kamala Harris and fellow educator Tim Walz elected to the White House. The effort we put into the presidential race was more about just those names I read. It was and is about the future of our democracy and our country. We knew then and we know now that the most basic rights and protections are at stake as the dangerous individuals behind Project 2025 are beginning to make their blueprint a reality. Yeah, hiss it, boo it, hate it. Since January 20th, the statement, which should have been a day of honor for Martin Luther King Jr., the statements and proposed actions that are coming from the Trump administration are clearly an attempt to erase us all, to erase immigrants, and let it be known that that's also about privatizing our prisons and expanding those oligarchs' money. It's about erasing LGBTQ plus and especially trans and non-binary individuals. It's about erasing those who live in poverty and those who are disabled. And it's about erasing us through deleting the true history of this country, which is why we had the mariachi band here today, because we were a part of Mexico many years ago. That is history. That can't be erased. The most vulnerable amongst us are being attacked, and we're seeing a threat to our basic way of life. They want to tear down the labor movement so that nothing stands in the way of Trump and his wealthy cronies, like Elon Musk, from taking over this country and extracting everything of value for themselves. You said it. And public education is at stake. And no one knows that better than all of you in this room, that the foundation of our democracy is our public education system. Trump's attempt to destroy public education is an attempt to create a country that only works for those in power. The Department of Education was created to centralize many education and societal issues we fight for and to ensure that federal dollars go to those who need it most. By attempting to eliminate the Department of Education, and they are working on that, he is threatening the funding of special education in our communities. He is attacking the very right for a person to be themselves by attacking the trans and non-binary community through Title IX eliminations. He is threatening Supreme Court decisions like Plyer v. Doe, which protects the rights of immigrants of any status to have access to our public education system. He is definitely threatening Brown v. Board of Education by eliminating the Civil Rights Department within the Department of Education and pushing for vouchers, which would return us to completely segregated schools and communities. We will not let that stand. We will fight back. The threat to our public education system is a threat to our democracy, and the threat to our democracy is a threat to our freedoms, which is a threat to all of us. Some fights will need to be done in the courts, and we will work with AFT and partner with our own AG Rob Bonta and work hand in hand with our allies in labor and community on many of these fights in the courts. But the courts and the ballot box are just two avenues to fight back and fight forward. We must take it to the streets like we did yesterday. We must organize our members. Our voices must be heard. We will fight back, we will resist, and above all, we will rebuild our communities and our country and repair the damage that Trump and his cronies have and will inflict on the United States of America. We will create a better country for all of us. The fight ahead of us is not a partisan fight, it is a human fight. It is a labor fight. It is our fight. The union is a place for all of us to come together. This is what makes our union strong. And when we all stand together and build our union power, we all win. While we are fighting back to protect our communities, we can and must fight forward. We have to fight for enjoyable wages, as we are doing in contract campaigns and as we are doing in Sacramento, coming to the lobby day. A little ad. The EQS committee, the We Can't Wait committee, the many organizing efforts fighting for contract campaigns and demanding not an austerity of state budget, but an education state budget. We must fight to improve our healthcare system. Katie Bassler, where are you? There you are, from Salinas Valley. You're fighting back for our communities, for a better healthcare system, and fighting forward as a member of the Healthcare Affordability Advisory Board to the Office of Healthcare Affordability. Now, that was just created, and I know you just started. That's why we're fighting forward. This is a brand new state agency that Katie has only begun to work on, and this work we must do because what they do is they are supposed to limit, by state law, what the insurance companies can increase. It's to stop that. But this is the beginning, and thank you for doing that work. Because what we need to do, let's give Katie another applause. But that's a piece of it. What we really need is universal health care. That's the real change that needs to happen. We need to protect while we have what we have, but we need to fight forward and get universal health care for all. Our members and communities are suffering financially, mentally, physically, either from lack of or high cost of health care. No one should lose their home or their retirement savings because they got sick. And we won't need the part-time health care plan because everybody will have it. We must fight for our climate justice. We must protect our students and our communities from the climate emergencies that are already here. The devastating LA wildfires, make no mistake, and I know I'm told not to use that, is a climate crisis. That's not just something that happens every other year. 100-mile-an-hour winds with sparks that spread fire through historically black neighborhoods. They're going to get worse, just like this administration. As this administration chips away at the EPA and the Supreme Court decisions for clean air. But we have to fight back, and then we have to fight forward by fixing it and creating it in our way. We can't stop there. We must fight for fair tax policies that demand wealthy individuals and corporations pay their fair share, as we have done before. In our fight for fair taxation, it is critical that we begin by extending Prop 30. You may remember back in 2012, we passed Prop 30. Then we had to pass Prop 55 because it was going to expire. Well, that's going to expire in 2030. So we need to pass that. We need to secure what we have before that sunsets to make that permanent and have no expiration. And we need to do that with coalition and with our labor and community partners. But then we need to fight forward. After we secure that, we must push for a wealth tax, because we are so clearly in a crisis of a new Gilded Age where the rich are getting exponentially richer and the poor and working class are falling further and further behind. As I've laid out before you, we cannot only fight back, we must fight forward toward a new future that reflects our values, the values of California, and the strength and spirit of our communities. As I said, the courts and the ballot box are just two avenues. We need to get to the streets. We must organize our members. We must raise our voices. We need to fight back, we need to resist, and then we need to rebuild. As some might say, this is a moment in time. This is not a moment in time. We're in a season of change. In his most famous speech, I Have a Dream, Martin Luther King Jr. intoned, "The sweltering summer of legitimate discontent will not pass until there is an invigorating autumn of freedom and equality." As Dr. King knew then, as we know now, what lies ahead of us is surely going to be difficult. But there must be moments of joy, for joy is a form of resistance. And Martin Luther King knew that too. To win, we must be united. We must be strong and we must be joyful, because without joy, we lose hope. I'm ready to do this work. I'm ready to fight by your side. I'm ready to fight back, and I'm ready to fight forward. Will you join me? Will you stand with me? Will you stand and resist? Would you stand in solidarity? Will you stand to fight back and to fight forward? Because when we fight, when we fight, when we fight, we win. Thank you, CFT. Thank you for fighting.